got a biography here about Mr. Key. Mr. Key is a ag science instructor at Itasca High School and has been teaching for 27 years. He is a 1999 graduate of Tarleton State University. He has been judging livestock shows for over 25 years, including county, regional, state shows across Texas and the Midwest. Jimmy serves on the board of directors of the Agricultural Teachers Association of Texas and is a member of the Major Livestock Show Advisory Committee. He and his wife Shelley have been married 22 years. They have a daughter, Caitlin, who is 32, and a son, Wyatt, who is 20. He says one of the greatest blessings are the kids and the families that he has gotten to know as a result of the livestock show, and that there is no place he'd rather be than at a livestock show. Thank you for being here, Mr. Key.
Well, good afternoon. It's certainly an honor to get to come back and work with these kids and these animals. I had the opportunity to come last year and do the breeding show, and it was a phenomenal show with a lot of quality, and so I've really been in anticipation over the last few months as I got ready to come back here today. And I think when we start this first class, this is an indication of the kind of quality we're going to see today. It's going to be another really nice show. This little wether that we start with is one that I can kind of get on board with in terms of his body type. I really like the way that this one's assembled. He's nice and level down his top line. I like his underline and the way it blends up into his chest plate. He's one, I think, when you just kind of compare him to the group, he's just more three-dimensional as you work your way around him. And then there's no doubt that he really excels in terms of muscle shape and touch. He's big back. Just one that just kind of checks all those boxes. After that, I think we can do a number of things. I like the little ewe-lamb to be second. I think for me, when you just study her, she's the smaller one out here in this group. But again, I think I like her lines. I like her top line and the way she puts her body together. She's really balanced in my mind when you work your way around her. And then when you get on top of her and start to evaluate her muscle shape, she is big in her rack. She's deep in her edges. I really like the way that her loin edge blends high into her hip. That's a nice one in my mind. out here in this first class. The one that's going to come next is the one that really kind of patterns our class winner in terms of his general silhouette and type. When you start to study this one's front third, he wants to be just a bit forward in his neck and doesn't lay it in quite as correct there on top of his blade. But I think for me the bigger issue when you compare him to the two ahead of him, he just doesn't come with quite the pop and the shape down his top and out of his hip. I'd like to make him or make her just a little more muscular, just a little more descript in terms of her muscle to run at that pair at the top just a little harder. The one that gives you some shape and some power is the one that comes next. Another little ewe-lamb that you have to appreciate for just how muscular and expressive she is. For me, from a skeletal standpoint, is where she starts to have a little trouble. She gets a little more compact and she just doesn't balance quite as well for me. I think when we asked her to go, she's the one of this group here that wants to be just a little lower there in her front third, and we'd like to change that about her for me and then think about moving her up. And then we round out our class with one. I love this one's balance and look. This is another one that's really long-sided, tall-shouldered, and something that really fits me in terms of that look and that package from the side. However, this is one when you get in there and start to evaluate this one's muscle. Again, one that's just a little rounder in terms of her top shape, maybe just a bit flatter in her hip. We just need to stouten her up from a muscularity standpoint to move her any higher. A really nice class to start with. Let's put our hands together for all these kids. This class presents a bit more of a challenge because I think this top pair are very similar in terms of their muscle shape. I thought in the last class, the sheep that we used to win kind of had a decided advantage in muscle shape and just overall product, but I think this pair are very similar. When you get on top of these, I think they handle relatively similar in terms of their rack out through the base of their loin. You study their hip shape, and you get at that three-quarter view and study their twist and that width from stifle to stifle, and I think they're very similar. I think the difference for me, though, today, again, is the way that the class winner is built. When you study his underline, he wants to run up and tuck up into the base of his chest floor just a bit more, and that's evident through his rib shape. He's just a bit bolder through the center portion of his rib, just a little bit more opened up off either end when you watch him come at you and go away. Again, the one that comes second, big and stout, really expressive, meets your hand full. I really like the second place lamb's loin edge and the way it ties into his hip. Really smooth and really neat. However, when we study this one's rib cage, right there in that shoulder pocket, he wants to be just a bit deeper from the midpoint of his rib cage to the base of his cage, and it just allows him to narrow up just a bit off both ends. We find that nice turn to that rib in the one that's going to come third. This one is one from a profile standpoint, gives you the right look. When you get on top of this one, he doesn't come with quite the shape and power as the pair that do ahead of him. And I think for me, when you get behind this one, up the top three, this is the one that wants to close up at the ground just a bit and be just a bit more narrow on a comparative basis. And then we find the one that rounds out our class, gives you some extra height and some extra length. I like that in regards to his balance. When you get at the ground and start to study this one, he's probably the finest in regards to his bone work. You get the front third of this sheep, I think, in terms of his shape up high, is really nice. He's got a big rack in him. He just wants to be a bit more narrow when you come out of his rib and work your way into his loin. He doesn't come quite as opened up there at the base of that loin edge as we'd like him to for a sheep his size. But another one that balances up nice and has a good touch to him. If you would, let's put our hands together for this group of exhibitors on a really nice job. Again, this next class sorts itself just a bit differently, but I think for me, the one that we start with is one that I'm very comfortable when you get off to the side of this one. Again, maybe when you compare his silhouette to the others out here in the class, maybe just a bit more moderate in terms of his general build, but this guy offers a lot of good. He is extremely muscular. He's good to the touch. He handles extremely fresh down his top, really nice out through the base of his loin. You like his hip design and shape. He's big at the ground. You know, again, if we could change him, we might make him a tick longer there in his hind saddle, make him balance just a bit more. But out here in this group, in terms of his muscularity and build, I like that one to win the class. The decision really came here, I think, for me in 2 and 3. The young man's weather that comes second. When you start to study him down his top and get into his loin, I think that's where he really starts to gain an advantage over the sheep that comes third. He's bolder, he's higher in his edges, he's fresher to the touch as you handle him out through his loin and out through his hip. The big bodied sheep here that's going to be third, another one that comes really fresh to the touch there over his rack. You get into his loin edge and he starts to get a little harder and just a bit drier, just not quite there in terms of the finish over the base of that loin. I think we feed him another 30 days, he puts on some more flesh and he really starts to blend and smooth in right there just a bit more. So I think that's a really close pair. And then I think when you compare 3 to 4, when you get in behind this pair is where you start to see some separation. The sheep in third offers a bigger hip. He's just a bit stouter when you're studying through the center portion of his leg. The young lady sheep that's going to round out our class, one that handles good in his rack. He too comes into the base of this loin just a little rougher, just a little harder right here through this area. And then I think when we compare these two from the rear, I just don't find quite as much power through the center portion of this one's leg as we compare him to the one in third. Another nice class, I think a nice one up here to lead us off. Let's congratulate this group of kids. features that stand out, things that may give them an advantage possibly over another sheep here in the class, maybe in front of them. So I think depending on who's judging and looking at them, you move this group around in a number of different ways, and I wouldn't argue with you if that's what you wanted to do. I do feel, for me personally, that this pair that comes to the top, just in terms of touch and shape, do it rather well. I mean, both of them are big back and expressive. I think the sheep that wins is when you start to handle this guy and you get into this one's loin edge. He's incredible in terms of the design to his loin. He's good in his edges. He sits high up there in his edge and really blends a wide loin into that hip. The blue sheep that's going to come second is one, you know, when you stand off to the side and you look at that silhouette, I like his body and build. I like his neck set and the way it lays in there on the top of his blade. When you get your hands on him, especially from his last year back, he doesn't come as bold and as wide, not quite as good in his edge today. And I think when you ask him to move, he's not quite as comfortable there in his skeleton as is the sheep that we start with. Really big rib, big stout sheep here going to come next. And I think for me, when you study this one's underline, I like him. He's a bit deeper in his flank in comparison to the one that stands ahead of him. I don't know if he's got quite the extra just in terms of being tall shouldered and a little bit more extended. He gets a little bit forward in his neck. In regards to his muscle shape, I do like his touch. I do like his handle. And then, as I said, I like his depth of flank, and it just allows him to balance just a bit better when you study his underline. Really big stout made sheep's going to come next. He's one that's shaggy-legged and big-footed. For me, when you get off to the side, I read him to be a bit deeper in his chest plate and a bit tighter in his flank. And I'd like to kind of change that about him, elevate him in his chest just a bit more. There's no doubt he's muscular, he's expressive, he's one that's got really good touch to him. I just like to change his dimensions just a bit. And then again, I think kind of like the third place sheep, he just gets a bit forward in his neck, a little shorter out of his neck, and a little bolder at the top of his shoulders. So if we could maybe rearrange this front third with that muscle shape, we can certainly make a case for running that sheep up a spot or two. And then the sheep that's going to round out our class is another one that is incredibly muscular. He is big back. I like him out of his hip. When you compare him at the ground to the other sheep out here, he gets a little finer in terms of his bone work. And then when you study his hip and hind leg, maybe just not quite as comfortable in that area as you see in the sheep that stand ahead of him, but another sheep that's muscular and expressive, and you really have to appreciate that about him. Another nice class. Let's congratulate this group of kids. and you know, I found myself in the same predicament last Wednesday at another county fair. I felt like 3 of the best sheep of the entire show all fell into the same class. And I think if you show long enough that you realize that those things happen. I think these sheep out here in the ring, especially this top 3, I think if we were in Houston or Austin or maybe San Antonio, these are all sheep that get a look and certainly are in consideration for a sales spot. When you get to a county fair, sometimes they fall into the same group, and so it makes it tough at this level. All 3 of these sheep, I think, that lead us off certainly are high quality, not taking anything away from the young lady sheep that's in fourth, because if you study the body in that sheep right there, that sheep is well built, he is correct, he's got the right look from the side, and so we're going to talk about all those details. I think for me that the pair of sheep that lead us off are just a bit stouter, just a bit more manly and masculine. When you start at the ground and study their bone and foot size, that's where they set the tone for that carcass that they have. They are big-footed, they're big in their forearm, they are opened up through their forerib, they've got some center body, they carry that width out through their upper hip. They're both wide and square when they come to the ground from the rear, and when you get in and handle them, both are bold and expressive to the touch. For me, when we compare these two, I think when we get right in there to the base of their loin, I think we find just a bit of an advantage of our sheep that wins the class. And when we ask these sheep to go, that is the one of that pair that stays taller at the top of his shoulder, just a bit more upright in the front third of his body, and gives you that same look and motion that we see from the side. Again, the young man sheep in second, big and rugged, big and shapely. I love his touch, he's so fresh, but just when you study just his true muscle coming out of his rib and working into his upper hip, I don't read him to be quite as opened up, quite as bold and powerful in that rear third or hind saddle of himself as we have in the sheep that we start with. I love the body type in the build in the sheep that comes third. Again, one that's tall-shouldered. He's one that props up good. He's got the right line from the profile. He's a little finer in terms of his bone and foot size, maybe just a bit flatter right there in that forearm. And then I think probably the biggest thing, when we ask him to go, he's the one that seems just a bit more mature when you study his chest plate. He wants to get down just a bit lower fronted, and just doesn't maintain the front third of his skeleton quite as well when we get him going as do the pair that come ahead. But again, that's a very, very nice sheep out here to be third. And then the young lady sheep that's going to round out this class. That's a tremendous look in that sheep that she offers you right here. I love that extra length of neck that offers some tremendous balance. I love his top line and how dead level he is. Again, when you start at the ground and start to study this sheep, he's just a bit frailer there at the ground in terms of his bone and foot size, and I think that becomes a bit more of an issue when you get on top of him and start to handle him and study his muscle shape. He doesn't come to be near as expressive. He's not quite as bold in that span across his back as you handle him from end to end. But again, that's a sheep that's very competitive and going to win a lot when you get him out at some jackpot shows. A great group of sheep out here, good set of exhibitors. Let's congratulate all these kiddos. get this late in the spring and you don't know what you're going to see. And I've had a chance to do, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 county shows in the last couple of months. And so what we see out here in terms of quality, I think, is phenomenal. All of these class winners, I think, are extremely nice. I thought we were really close with some of our seconds. We started the show with this little sheep here that, again, I think has a tremendous future. I love his balance and his look, and then you get in there and handle him, and his touch is impeccable. The ewe-lamb that we used second, I thought in terms of her body type was very similar. Didn't lead her to come with near the muscle shape as the young ladies that we led with, but a nice sheep in my mind to be second. And then the pair out of that next class, I thought we had one just a little stouter, just a little more shapely there, maybe a little better there in that front third to win that class. The young lady that came second. Another one that you liked, and that was a class I thought there were some differences out there in that group. In that next class, the little sheep here, not quite the big and bold extended package that we found in the pair ahead of it, but man, the touch that you get when you get in and handle this sheep, he is big and rugged, he is so expressive, so fresh, good-heighted, just some extras in terms of look and power. We followed him with the young man, again, another one that just doesn't come quite as shapely, but I like this one's body type and the way he assembles himself when you get off to the side of him. And then we found another pair in that next class, and the one that led us off again just has a few of those extras in terms of some look and some power. Had the distinct advantage right there in terms of the base of his loin. And again, I think when we asked him to go, another one that's very comfortable in motion. And then the blue sheep that we used second. I thought that pair just a little stouter at the ground, just a little bolder and more expressive than the remainder of the class. And then we just talked these heavyweights out here. I thought that was a very deep class and very competitive. And this pair of sheep right here are as good as you can make them. They're muscular, expressive, they're good to the touch, they're very good heighted, just silky smooth when you get in there. And again, both of them stout at the ground. So many similarities in this pair of sheep, and then just very slight differences in the way that I just kind of perceive them, and as I watch them go, and depending on who's lining these up, I think that top three, you could swap them out any way you wanted to and justify it, because those are good sheep. That's a good pair standing in front of me. I like this pair to win. Congratulations to these young men on a really nice job.
Okay, we're going to be lining up our sale order. We'll kind of let the ring steward get it started, and then we'll start calling in the ring.
really a challenge to judge, especially when you have high quality exhibitors and they're so subjective and preferential because everybody kind of looks for different things. Different things stand out and matter to you. And, you know, for me, a lot of people ask a lot of questions, and I don't have a problem with that. And at times I do ask questions because understanding what you're doing and why you're doing it and what you're feeding, all of those things I feel are very, very important. By the same token, you got to be able to get the right cut on these sheep. You got to be able to have them traveling and moving at the right pace so that the judge can evaluate them whether they're driving or whether they're in motion. And for me, touch is a big part of it. We're kind of in an era now where we do a lot of posing almost, and we look great, but when we go in and handle the sheep, the exhibitor looks good, and sometimes the sheep handled just a little softer. And we are on the heels of our major shows, and those sheep that handled soft, no matter how good they were, I can assure you they probably hit the gate more times than not because they've got to have the right touch. When you've got 28 or 30 sheep out there and they're going to sell 18 and they all look the part, if they don't handle the part, a lot of times they're not out there in the running. And so as I work my way up and down the line, I'm evaluating these exhibitors and how well they present these animals and their comfort level. And that's one thing that really is a challenge, is being able to take 140 or 50 or 60 pound sheep and to navigate your way around this animal, to be able to show all the right aspects of this animal, know what you're doing, when you're supposed to be doing it, and handling this animal and making it look effortless. And we've got some kids out here that can do that, and you know, I guarantee you, it is not easy to do. And this is not a discredit to the parents at ringside, but a lot of times we're giving those instructions, and those kids, they really got it. They know. And it's a different deal when you're standing in here and you're trying to listen to somebody at ringside. You're trying to watch the exhibitors on either side of you. You're trying to watch the judge. You're trying to manage your sheep as they get a little antsy. There's a lot of things happening in showmanship, regardless of the species, all at one time. And for these kids, these high-level kids, to be able to do it and just make it look so easy, it really takes a tremendous amount of skill. I think we get out here in this particular group, and I think there's probably 3 or 4 out here that really stand out to me. I think there's a pair that maybe just do it at a little different level in terms of just their presentation and their ability to get these animals presented. I like the young lady here in the flowered shirt to win. We're going to use the young man out there beside her for reserve. Congratulations to these kiddos. In another group where we've got some, this is kind of the age group where you can get a variety of things. A lot of times we get some of these younger kids maybe just getting started, and then we have some intermediates that maybe have already been hauling and traveling for 3, 4, or 5 years and have just a bit more experience. And so I think a lot of times in this intermediate age group, there's more of a disparity in terms of skill levels. But what I see out here now and what I've seen today during this show, again, I think we have a group of young people that know what they're supposed to be doing and are very deliberate. We talked about being very calculated and graceful in that last group, and you've got to know all of these things that are happening and be aware of all of these different things happening at once. And so to be calculated and deliberate so that your movement looks effortless. Everything is planned. You're always aware of where the judge is. It takes a lot of skill, and I think we've got some out here that do it at a high level. Before we pick our winner, I know we still got junior and Pee-wee to go, but I want to take a moment to say thank you for the opportunity to come back. I don't have a big motivational spiel, but what I do want to tell you young people is you can hear me, please listen and make sure that you thank someone for helping you get here. I don't know if any of you kiddos got here on your own. It takes a whole group or a team of people a lot of times to make stock shows happen. And so for you young people, find somebody, whether it be a parent, a neighbor, a teacher, your agent, committee people, and thank someone for helping you get where you are. And then I want to take a moment, if you would, and let's put our hands together for this board here in Leon County and what they've done. Serving on a board directors for a county show, like any other thing, Pee-wee baseball, Livestock Association, Youth and Athletic Association, it's really a thankless job. But the truth is, when someone volunteers to give their time to your children, whether you agree with them or not, you need to appreciate that because they're giving time to you that they could be spending with their family. And if you're not happy with something, I want to encourage you to put your name on the ballot and run for the board. And if you don't do that in this county, then step up and try to volunteer and help. If that means picking up trash outside before the sale on Saturday or whenever you do that, just get in here and be part of the solution. It is easy to point fingers. I want to encourage you to set the example for the children in this county. They have all worked hard today and throughout this week, and we as parents need to show them that we are all on board for their betterment. And so, with that being said, out here in this division, again, I think there's one maybe does it just a bit better on this end, and then I think for reserve, it's really, really close. I like the young lady here in the blue shirt to be your champion today. We're going to follow her with this young lady here on the end. Great job from this kiddo as well. division, and you know, this is the age where it gets really challenging because we're asking these young people to manage animals that weigh as much or more than they do, and so you know, it does my heart good to see kids with the courage to come out here and battle and work hard, and at this age and this size, a lot of times, you know, from this standpoint, they may not be perfect, but in my mind, if I know that they know what they're supposed to be doing, can they implement that every time? No, they may not be able to. But are they making the effort? Are they working hard? Do they know where they're supposed to be? And I think both of these young ladies do. And so, as we had them on the rear view, and then we profiled them over here, and we move them around, you know, to get them propped up and to find that look that we need, that we're searching for, it's difficult. And so I wanted to give them 2 or 3 opportunities, again, working with the sheep and trying to get them in a position and seeing how these kids respond. And both of these young ladies have done a really, really nice job. And both of them in their classes got their sheep presented extremely well. And again, making it easy to read and making it easy to handle. I think in terms of the composition of the sheep, I think that kind of really what makes the decision today. If you would just put our hands together for both of these young ladies on a really nice job. I like the young lady here in the pink to win. Young lady in the blue is going to be reserved, but both of them have done a tremendous job. Good job. Good job. of any show. And we don't do, not a lot of county fairs do TV showmanship. And so consider yourself lucky that your county allows these little ones to come out here. And one of the most exciting things about getting to talk with these kids is their excitement and their joy, and they're happy and they're having fun. If I have one wish for these children is as they grow, we push them to compete, we prepare them in life, we let them fall whenever it's necessary, but we always support this passion that they have, this love and this joy that they're experiencing right now. And it's possible. You can compete and you can compete to win, and you can push your children, and they know that you are proud of them and that you love them. And that is the absolute most important thing. Buckles, banners, all of those things are so special. But if your children don't think that you believe in them, you've lost them. And they need to know that you are so proud of them. And I'm proud of each one of them. They've done a great job. It's tough at this age. Again, we talked about that a moment ago in that junior division about how to set them up and knowing what you're supposed to be doing. And there's some out here, I think, just a bit more advanced than some of the others. When we get to this spot right here, we've got to be able to know how to present these animals. And I think there's 2 or 3 of them that can really do that. Some of them are doing it without some assistance. I think there's one that's just super smooth. You're able to study and read that sheet from end to end. Young man here in the maroon shirt, he's going to be your champion. Congratulations to him. And then I think it gets real close down here for reserve. I think there's a pair right here that do good. But the young man here, I think it's Cash, is that right? Yeah, Cash is going to be your reserve champion. Congratulations to him.
Well, good afternoon. It's certainly a pleasure to be here this afternoon and have the opportunity to sort through the GOAT show. Really nice class to start the day off with, and I think an easy one to win the class. Young man's white goat's going to lead the class off. Big back, big hip, kind of a goat that's wide base. Really love the rib shape in him, and sweep to his rear flank is really good. I think he comes to the top in this class pretty handily. There's one you got a lot about. The one from there, it gets a little more difficult, but the one in second, he's got the next most amount of muscle that we have in the class. He's big in his forearm, he's got some hip shape to him. You get your hands on him down his top, he's square over his rack and loin. I'd like to make him a little deeper in his center. I'd like to give him more rib shape, drop his rear flank, and make him stouter in terms of skeletal width compared to our class winner. And then we come into a big framey goat here that comes third, long-bodied, attractive goat. Love the middle to him and the rib shape he's got. He's super good on his feet and legs. He's given up too much muscle compared to the two in front of him to move any higher. He needs to be a little square over his rack and have a little more mass when you get right behind him and look at that center and lower leg. Then we round the class out with one that's really a nice designed goat. I like him from the profile. He's good on his feet and legs. Too much muscle shape that's missing in him to move him any higher. Put your hands together and congratulate these exhibitors on a really nice class. So we come into class 3 and they come in just the way I like them, 1, 2, 3. Young lady in blue, a really nice goat. I think it's really close between first and second, but that goat is tremendous in terms of bone shape, skeletal design, the way he's put together. I think he's more relaxed in his spine, he's more up in his breastplate, one that's put together better in his shoulder shape, but he's also one that's more dimensional in the center part of his body. He's got more rib and cage to him. He drops his rear flank a little better. He's not perfect. I'd like to fix his hock just a touch. When you put him in motion, he wants to drop his pins and get a little more underneath himself or have a little more set to that hock than what I'd call ideal. But I love the body shape of this one and the dimension that he brings to the class. The one in second handles firmer. Really a great handling goat. Great shape down his top. Not as wide, not as stout in the center part of his body. He's a little flatter rib. He's one that's really good touching. Just like to see more of him and pull him apart in the center part of his body compared to that class winner. And then we round that class out with one. There's nothing wrong with that goat, young lady. That's a stout one. He's big top, big ended, big footed. Gets a little shorter sided, gets a little flatter in his stifle muscle compared to the two in front of him. Let's give these exhibitors a round of applause on a really nice class. Another nice class, and I think a horse to win it. Really a stout-made, powerful goat. If you're going to criticize him, it's up to his front end. He's getting a little more mature there, a little more shoulder working in him than maybe what I'd call ideal. I'd like to stretch him out and give him more futuristic look when you view him from the side. But man, is he powerful. Just tremendous in terms of muscle shape down his top, a big forearm working in him. great hip and hind leg structure in him. From there, I think we go to the next heaviest muscle goat. It's the young lady in black. It's going to be second. That goat's really got a nice shape down his top. He's got some muscle to him in his forearm. Needs more center body to him. He wants to get a little high in his rear flank, a little flatter rib, but I think a nice designed one. Fox is going to be third, the one that needs just a touch more muscle in him. A real well-designed goat, but I appreciate the middle shape to him. He's good in the sweep to his rear rib and flank compared to the one we have in second, but he's just not muscular enough. I think when you put him in motion, he gets pretty flat in that stifle and lower leg, and he's narrower base when you get right behind him. And then we round the class out with one that just needs a shot more muscle to him. Here's another long-bodied goat that's attractive up to his front end. He's good on his feet and legs, just needs more muscle. Congratulate these exhibitors on another nice class. Hang around up here, please. All right, on our heavyweight class, we're going to leave them just like they are. We go with the spot in his back, going to win it. Really a stout one, really nice made, very attractive up to his front end. If I could change him, it'd be put more flexibility up front for him. He gets a little straight in his knee and shoulder. I'd like to see him reach out with more flexibility off of that front end. Super good hip and hind leg in, big back, big ended kind of a goat. Nice one to lead the class off. Really close for me between second and third. I think the one in second's got a little more to him, particularly in skeletal width and rib shape. He's one that drops his rear flank good. He's got some shape down his top. I think the one in third is close to him in terms of muscle. Here's a long-bodied goat. Needs to be wider made goat. Gets a little narrower and flatter rib. Gets a little narrower base from behind. Let's put your hands together and congratulate these kids one more time for a nice class. Well, if you would, congratulate these kids on a really nice job. Also good set of goats, really high quality set. As we come out of the major show season, it's really impressive to see some quality out here that we've got, and a really impressive set here in this county. So a really tough decision though, because every one of them there's a little thing or two you'd like to change about them, and when you start talking about where's my champion coming from, that gets a little harder. When we start talking about the little white goat on that first class, there's a nice designed goat. He's good on his feet and legs. He's got enough muscle to him. Is he big enough? Is he stout enough? Is he fresh enough? He's probably the least amount or the least ready of any of the goats we have out here. And then the red fronted goats that come out of class 2. And you gotta love him. If you could touch this guy, you'll see that he's as wide as my hand is. Hard to reach across his top and really evaluate that goat because he's so wide and so massive. Works to his disadvantage at times. He wants to get a little more bold in his shoulder. He wants to drop behind his blade just a little bit. And certainly when you put him in motion, he gets to be the shortest sided goat out here. It's a little rounder out of his hip. Does that hurt him in this stride? I don't think so. I think he's an awful good goat. I'd like to stretch him out. I'd like to give him more future or grow or look to him as we talk about his sisters that are back in the pen. We talk about the goat out of class 3. One of the most fault-free we've got out here in terms of skeletal design and the way he's put together from the ground up. He's got enough muscle, but he's not beating anything out here in terms of fitness and muscle. That goat's got a good square rack in him. His loin edges are up in him. He's got enough muscle in his hip and hind leg. He's good off his feet and legs. Just don't know if he's out there enough at times when you start looking at selecting a grand for the whole show and saying, man, where's the one that really is an outlier? I don't think he's an outlier, but I don't think that's a bad thing at times. We come to class 4, and there's a goat there that's massive in terms of so I like that one quite a bit, and his design and pattern and the way he's put together and the touch and handle that he's got to him. You bring up the second out of that class, and here's a goat that I don't think it's quite as powerful as the ones we got left out here. He's not as good in his hip and hind leg structure. So I think when we start evaluating and going back to where I like to be in terms of seconds and where they match up with my champion, I think the goat out of class 3 is going to be my reserve. Congratulations. Hey, attention, Zoe Hayes, you need to come in and get you a picture. Zoe Hayes, come up and get you a picture. I'm missing you. Okay, he said if you be patient with us, we're going to line up for sale orders, and we'll get you lined up here shortly. I'm still waiting on Ryder and Chance Meadows. Okay, class 4, we need Parker Hasty and Brady Rohr in the ring.
Okay, that makes it life easier for you. Good. That's what I'm here for, Hannah. That's what I'm here for.
160 goes out here in class 1, Karen. Chance, over here.
So you can tell Aaron and I'll hook you up.
Need Ryder Meadows. Brady, move over to class 4. You're in the wrong class. Right here. Right here. Number 4, class 4. No, he's in the wrong spot. He's right here. Right here, between me and 125. Is that correct? Okay, everybody turn around and see your numbers. We're going to get this lined out. Okay, class 1, 159, class 2, Ryan. Third place, Ryan Metter is in third place on class 1, 158. They need to swap. Okay, class 2, we got 149, Barry Perez, 151, Eloy Perez. Class 3, we got Alex Mendez and Mackenzie Wood. Class 4, we got Ty Mosley, 134. We got Willie Bond, 123, Parker Hasty, 125, Brady Warren, 110. And in class 5, okay, 134 ties out. Third class, Alexa Mendez is out. Y'all be sure to stay in line, exhibitors. Last 5, Hunter Matthews out. Reese moves up. Parker Hastings is out. Red Royer is out. Ryder Meadow is out. Hey, after a short break, we're going to go right into Senior Showman. Senior Showman, y'all be Senior Showman. Senior Goat Showman. And grades 9 through 12. Senior Goat Showman. Showmanship. And you Senior Goat Showmanship. lots of things you can do. I think it's important that we get the basics down and getting those feet underneath them, their lines right, getting their head up at the right angle and their nose down. And then it's hard to do everything the same. Every goat show is just a little bit different. But I think there's a couple or three out here that do a really good job of maybe taking it to the next level and actually putting some work in with these goats and getting them to the point where they look their best, they got their nose down, they got their head up, they got their lines right, and they plan them and make them where they ought to be. And on top of that, they're comfortable in the ring. They're very confident in what they're doing, and they know where they should be. They know how to move the goat. They know how to position the goat. They keep the judge in the right spot all the time. So a really good class. Young man on the end, you'll be our champion. Senior showmanship. Young lady in blue right behind you will be our reserve. Great job to all of them. I think they work hard out here, and it's a challenge at times when you get late in the evening and these goats are starting to get hungry and they're wanting to go somewhere else. A really good set of intermediate showmen. Young lady, you did it. You beat all the boys. Congratulations. You'll be our champion. I think from there we talked about who can manage these goats the best and get their head up and in the right position, their feet squarely underneath them, and move them in the right positions. Young man here, second, you'll be our reserve. Congratulations. As we wrap up our junior showmanship, a really competitive group. I think a really difficult group at times, and I think when we start talking about goat showmanship and getting these things to walk and move, it's tough, especially when a lot of these goats outweigh these exhibitors, probably by quite a few pounds. Really competitive division. Young man in purple, you're going to win this division. Young lady on the other end, you'll be reserved. Congratulations. Junior Marking Goat Showmanship Grand Champion Farron Perez. Reserve Champion Parker Hastings. Congratulations, exhibitors. Good job. Now this is where the judge earns his paycheck right here. Pee-wee class. I really am trying to do it right and pick one that can show and set it goat up, and it's got a lot of intensity, and these kids are working hard. I appreciate that very much. Thank you all for inviting me today. I've had a great time. This is a passion of mine that I love to do. We're all over the state and get to do it, and it's really fun. But this is what it's all about right here. These little kids that are coming up into your program, your show will double in a few years if all of these little kids will come along and show some goats in the future. This is about a family event, and this is the only event you can do that in. You can play lots of sports, you can go to lots of different activities, but the Youth Livestock Program is one of the only ones that you'll have the opportunity to spend as much time as you do with your kids. And I know that for a fact because I spent 25 years doing it with my kids, and so I encourage you to do that and spend time with your kids. This is what it's about. Great job today. I'm going to pick a couple for champion, and then we're all going to go home. Young lady, you worked really hard with that red bow in your hair, and you're going to win the buckle today. Congratulations. Well, I think it's been tough from there. I think there's been some moments when you could say this one should win and moments when that one should win. But I think as far as setting one up and getting them parked where they ought to be, young man, young blonde-headed young man, you're going to be reserved. Congratulations.